Good evening, dear participants. Today we have the sixth day of our faculty development program on sustainable engineering and carbon neutrality. Today the session is by Dr. Vaishak Nair from NIT Surathkal. I think sir has joined. Sir, are you able to hear me? Vaishak sir, am I audible? Okay sir, shall we start? Yeah, sir has some audio problem. We'll wait for 1 minute.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, I'm really sorry
Yes,
for
sir. Yes, sir.
குறைத்தது ஆனால் 50% இடஒதுக்கீட்டை மீறிவிட்டதாகவும்
Uh, please mute your mic. So,
Yeah.
sir, shall we start?
Yeah, we can start. Let me just share this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, just go to the.
I'll just give a brief introduction, sir. So,
Yeah.
participants, today we have our session by Dr. Vaishak Nair. He's a assistant professor in chemical engineering, Department of Chemical Engineering, NIT Surathkal. He has done his PhD in chemical engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and he has done his master's in nanotechnology from National Institute of Technology, Calicut. He was, prior to joining NIT K. Surathkal, he was a postdoctoral fellow at Institute of Physical Chemistry, Polish Academy of Sciences, Warsaw, Poland. And his research focus was on nano engineering of thin layers of semiconductor photocatalysis in a microreactor environment for lignin-based model compounds valorization. He has done his PhD. His research area was in valorization of lignin and bioresidues by different techniques, including catalytic, fast pyrolysis, photocatalysis, functionalization, and thermochemical activation. So he has received awards, GE Eco Magnesian Excellence Award for the best PhD thesis in India, and Research Award issued by Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, India, and gold medal in 40th All India Students Design Competition instituted by National Design and Research Forum, Institution of Engineers, India. He has Gate Fellowship India and also fellowship in Sonata BIS project funded by National Science Center, Poland. He has several publications, 34 plus publications to his credit, and published in several high impact factor journals related to sustainable engineering and environmental practices. And he has 9 book chapters and 21 conferences, and he has 1 patent, and he has many conducted many invited talk on international conference series on smart materials and biotechnology and mechanical applications and advances in recent trends in energy applications of nanomaterials. He's guiding 1 PhD student and guided 1 more PhD student. So with this brief introduction, I welcome Dr. Vaishak Nair to the session.
Okay. Is it visible? The PPT is visible?
Yes, it is visible.
So now it is in slide mode. So you can see it, right?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So very good evening to one and all, and thank you for such a wonderful introduction about me. And it's an honor to be actually talking in front of such a wonderful gathering, because I see a lot of my teachers also here. So it's a very it's honor. It's a lot of big challenge, and I hope I try to basically pass on what I have learned, or I would say whatever I'm going to speak is what I'm currently doing. So it's a learning what is a period for me regarding this topic, which I have been given, that is biomass waste management for sustainable agriculture. I hope I'm fine, right? It's audible.
Yes, sir. You audible.
Okay, thank you. So, as the name suggests, biomass waste management for sustainable agriculture, we have 3 really important keywords here. So, one is basically biomass. There are a lot of keywords. If you just divide the title itself, there is biomass, there is waste, there is management, there is sustainable, there is agriculture. But I would try to frame this into 3 keywords. That is, one is biomass waste, second is biomass waste management, and third is sustainable agriculture. So generally, the overall picture of the talk today will be will be on basically, as I stated, agriculture, which is sustainable. This thing, We'll talk about biomass waste management, where we will talk about biomass, and I'll specifically talk about biochar, which is basically what I have been working on for the last 5-6 years. And that I'll try to basically relate in general what people are doing around, and as well as what we have been doing in our lab. So our major goal is that whatever we do, basically it basically helps the society, it helps the environment also. Because as the title of my group suggests, it is Energy and Environmental Research Lab. But as you can see, in urban cities and all, we are very much into energy point of view. So it has been changed into Energy and Environmental Research Lab. But definitely we give a lot of importance to environment. Now, first keyword is basically, I would say, sustainable agriculture. So sustainable agriculture is a method of farming that is ecologically good, is sound, economically viable, and socially responsible. So here basically three things again come into picture. One is basically that social aspect, economic aspect, and environmental aspect. And in general, if I say simple tense, whatever we do, it doesn't harm environment. We try to maximum utilize whatever the environment gives us, and we make sure that what we give back is not going to harm the environment. And what we get from the environment also, it should be basically more rather than just for our consumption, but whether it can also be of high value, which can actually be sold as a good or something. So economically, it should be also benefiting. So this is what overall, in general, I would say sustainable agriculture would mean. Okay. Now, when we say, what is basically involved in sustainable agriculture, it's basically carrying out activities which actually directly are related to these three major objectives. So there are not just about, so you will see that there are these objectives can actually lead into many different dimensions. Dimension in the sense, people working in computer science, people working in civil engineering, they use remote sensing for basically finding out which place, there is water scarcity, which place there is some contamination, where the nutrient shortage is there. So you will see that is again one application tool which they use. Then a proper, method, that is crop rotation, utilizing better machineries, efficient machineries. And then finally, to be precise, where we come into picture is basically how do we utilize the agricultural residues, animal manures. So these all things what I've highlighted are basically the material point, which is the waste we are talking about. And this leguminous, green manures are all again related. So you will see that even though I have highlighted some of these, the ones which I have not highlighted actually are coming into these. Okay, sometimes because again, people try to define, try to use certain words in a very broad sense. So sustainable, again, you will see that people use it because this is again one of the most fancy words right now. And I would say, if I remember when I was doing my MTech, it used to be nanotechnology. And now it is basically, which is people are coming to sustainable. And then you have the AI, which is some of the key, key emerging areas. Now, when I talk about biomass waste management, again, biomass waste can be in general stated as an organic non-fossil material of biological origin that is discarded, leftover, or is a byproduct of human activities. Okay. And again, you'll see there are different types of biomass waste generated from different sources. So you have municipal solid waste, forestry residues, industrial effluents, sewage, sludge, cattle manure, agricultural biomass. Now, if you again further try to basically concentrate on this point, the biomass source, you will see some of them are very much urban related. For example, urban industrial related, that is municipal solid waste, industrial effluents, sewage waste. So you can actually see that there are similarities in the waste what they generate and the techniques which and where their final application will be. So these are three things. Same way, forestry residue, agricultural biomass, cattle manure, these are also very similar to each other because again, agricultural biomass, cattle manure will be more where you'll see in the farming community. Forestry residues, again, it's a greenery place, and where you basically have wood based, waste being generated when wood is being cut, whatever waste like sawdust and all those things. Now, generally, biomass waste management is the process of strategically collecting, processing, and converting organic waste materials into valuable products such as biofuels, energy, biomaterials to reduce waste, promote a circular economy. So, as I stated, you will see that a lot of research has been gone into utilization of or management of these biomass waste for energy point of view. And generally, once we maximum utilize the energy part, whatever is left is what we try to give it back to the environment. Now, you'll see in the coming slides where this point, what I've stated, is described. So, this is one of the things to also actually note is that generally already there is a lot of well management, techniques being established for biomass waste, especially from getting energy point of view or biofuels or getting some value-added compounds. Now, among all these waste, I definitely would talk more on this agricultural biomass waste, because this is again different in the sense most of the waste what we stated previously, that is, municipal solid or the organic waste. Okay, when I say municipal solid waste, again, there are two types of waste in which you have the organic waste, which we are talking about, which we again also term as wet waste. So it is basically containing your household waste, domestic waste, which includes food waste and all those things. And so if you look into all these, if you look from the chemical composition also, agricultural biomass is much more complex when compared to these compounds, because again, agricultural biomass is basically composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin. But whereas when it comes to these, even forestry residue actually comes under this agricultural biomass. So again, I won't be explaining more about forestry residue because it will be similar to whatever processes have been done for agricultural biomass. But if you look compare with others, you will see these waste will be rich in nutrients, organic, in general like that. But again, it all depends on what type of waste. Like, for example, if you have food waste, again, vegetable waste and all those things, there this cellulose, lignin will come into picture. But that is like, let's say it's in a very, when you compare it with agricultural biomass, it's totally like, most of the agricultural biomass will definitely have 3 different components. So that is again one more way of classifying the difference between these waste. And this is also one of the reasons why I would say that agricultural biomass waste is very difficult to process. It is, there are again many things why I am stating this, not just the chemical composition, but we'll state it in the coming slides. So as I stated, agricultural biomass residue, which is basically produced from cultivation of different crops. So every year, India generates around 500 million tons of farm and Indian household waste, 50 kg of food per capita. In financial terms, the harvest and post-harvest losses of major agriculture and allied produced products amount is around 651 crore yearly. Improper management of this waste has always been causing pollution of air. Now, this is something very important. That is because you will see that most of the agricultural waste in India right now also, especially the northern half of India, where there basically they do something called as the stubble burning, that is open field burning. And this is also one cause of, the generation of greenhouse gases. And still people are doing it because this is the most convenient way of doing it. So that is one of the major issues observed in if you talk about actual management, there's no management really going on when it comes to agricultural waste. Then these are certain numbers, again, talking about based on the share of crop is basically, in terms of crop, what are the waste generated. So you will see the cereal crops generate the maximum, okay, million tons, that is 352 when compared to fiber and oil seed crops. And 70% of the total crop residue is contributed by cereal. That is what we stated. 55. So these are the numbers, these are numbers which basically show that agricultural biomass, or sometimes, and mainly it is also called as agricultural residue. So both are same. So both basically contribute a lot. as a biomass waste. Now, the major challenges. So this is something I have put initially itself, because whatever I am talking, as I stated in the last 5 years, what I've seen is it's all, you have to be always reading, and you have to basically get updated, because this is a very different scenario. It is not like water or air. Water, it is very easy. You can do it in a vessel or this thing. But when you talk about soil, soil is complex. You cannot really take it as it is in water. Like water, you can see things. Water, you can take samples at different points. Still, it will be uniform, and the way you do experiments in water is different. And when it comes to soil, because soil, there are different particles. Movement of particles are depending on the porosity, based on the concentration. Then again, there is the biological part coming into picture. So that all basically have a lot of role basically in the agricultural residue, application in in the sustainable agricultural application, agricultural waste management. Now, coming here to the major challenges is that diverse nature of feedstock supply. The problem is, you have to always understand that the biomass or the crop residue, what you get in, let's say, Karnataka, of the same crop, might have something different, which is basically grown in Haryana or Punjab. The reason being is because the soil type is different, the nutrients will be different, and again, the weather condition, moisture, all this will be different. So what happens is there will be a change in the concentration. There will be a range of, that's why you will see that range of cellulose, lignin, hemicellulose given. It won't be an accurate value. It will be a different varying value. And this is one more thing why you cannot actually, one of the major issues also. So you have to be very much, you have to consider that point also. Then feedstock supply. Now, some of these feedstocks basically are winter crops, some are summer crops. So again, these are not always produced. If you want to really utilize agricultural residues for some material application, let's say for fertilizer or something, there, the production is one of the major place where it holds. I'll come to the third point later. And then fourth comes technological limitations. Because again, when you set up these things, as I stated, the diverse location means mostly you have to set up a industry or a small scale. It won't be a large scale. Based on the capacity, you will see that the cost required for basically construction and management would be very much challenging in a particular, especially depending on such residues. Economic viability, again, it is related to the usage of whatever material comes, how much is being marketed, which region it is going to be utilized, whether people are really utilizing it. Because the third point is very important in this, the involvement of scientific community. Now, this is again very much what I personally have observed is that there is an agricultural institute, they will take care. So that is what is the thing. But there's a lot of chemical engineering there. Okay, chemical engineering, civil engineering, a lot of engineering is required here, and a lot of management skills is required. People from economic background, they are required. So these are some of the science background are required. So these are some things which it's not just bonded to, let's say, people having a degree in zoology or botany. It is actually basically something which anyone can venture. Okay. Now, coming to the third most important, involvement of farming community. Now, if you look into most of the waste management, this thing, urban people, it would be the life. First thing is basically the lifestyle. Now, we are already living in a very, our lifestyle or life, it's very much higher. The standard of living, that is what I would, that is the actual word I would say. The standard of living is high when compared to that in a village. And so what happens is people require cheap things. They want to basically look, their knowledge about outside or making money is not as, as much, what a person in a city would have. And that is one thing very much, challenging here, because sometimes if you make a product also, people are reluctant to take it. So that is what one issue is. And you have to actually in person go talk with people, you have to assure them. So here lot of actually policies, involvement of NGOs, a lot of government, community departments coming into picture, because otherwise it is very difficult. Whatever you do, finally it is the farmer who has to utilize this. If he is reluctant to utilize it, then there is no point in doing all these activities. Now coming back to the actual listing, as I stated, agricultural residue, lignocellulosic biomass. So you will see that it is made of lignin. The residue is also termed as lignocellulosic biomass because of the components. So as I stated, there are three different components. There is hemicellulose, lignin, there is cellulose, and already cellulose and hemicellulose is well-known raw material for making ethanol in biorefineries. So lignin is right now people are doing research and they're trying to basically utilize it for getting value-added compounds. But if you look into the chemical, so there are three different I would say components of a lignocellulosic biomass: cellulose and hemicellulose being sugars, lignin being mostly an aromatic phenolic polymer. It is the most abundant natural aromatic polymer. And as I stated, you will see that different agricultural waste will have different compositions. Okay? So this is one of the things that if I make a material out of one of them, I cannot basically expect that I will get the same material from the other agricultural waste. This comes specifically, we have seen in the biochar production. Now, already, as I stated, people have been doing a lot of work on biomass waste valorization, because again, it is being mainly focused on getting fuel, energy. Okay, so there are different techniques people have been used. Mechanical, biochemical, thermochemical methods are there. But I will definitely focus on the thermochemical method, pyrolysis here, because one of the raw materials which is formed here is not raw materials, byproduct which is formed. I'm very sorry for that mistake. The byproduct which is formed is biochar. And again, pyrolysis is different. There are different types. So if you go for slow pyrolysis, that is basically heating at a higher residence time, that is 1 to 2, 3 hours. So you basically get more of the solid material. So biochar becomes basically the main product. Otherwise, normally people focus towards the bio oil point. But again, I will consider this here slow pyrolysis. So you'll see biochar is basically considered because it is again used for the application. Here it is shown as soil amendment. So already it is seen that biochar is a well-known soil amendment. That means a material which can enhance the soil properties. So let me go in detail about biochar. So biochar is a carbonaceous byproduct of lignocellulosic biomass developed by various thermochemical processes. So generally any thermochemical method you see, that is gasification, you basically go into pyrolysis, micropyrolysis, you go with any methods, you combustion also, you'll see some solid being formed, but generally that will be ash. But generally wherever there is a limited amount of air or absence of air or being considered, that thermochemical method will basically give you biochar. Okay. And here when I'm talking about biochar, again I'm talking about agricultural agricultural residue based biochar, because animal waste can also be used for making biochar. So specifically I am talking about agricultural waste biochar. Now the another definition which is given by the International Biochar Initiative is basically that biochar is a solid substance generated through biomass pyrolysis in an oxygen limited environment. So same way you can see that there are different definitions given. And as I stated, because this research everywhere in the world they are doing, they've been trying to use biochar for soil studies and agricultural studies in US, in Europe. So that's why you will see that there are different ways they will define it. But in general, we can say that biochar is black, highly porous, lightweight, fine-grained, and has a large surface area. Approximately 70% of its composition is carbon, The remaining percentage consists of nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, along with other elements. Biochar chemical composition varies depending on the feedstock used to make it and the method used to heat it. Now, this is again the first point I have already stated in the previous slide. The method also we stated in other, and same way also in, let's say, in a particular technique, thermochemical method, let's say pyrolysis itself, when we say, based on the temperature and the time you are basically heating, the residence time, you will see the biochar produced at 300 degrees Celsius for 2 hours will have a different property when compared to biochar synthesized at the same temperature after 4 hours. Same way, biochar synthesized at 300 degrees Celsius for 1 hour will have different properties when compared to biochar synthesized at 500 degrees in 1 hour. So that is again, a lot of optimization studies have to be done based on what you require, what properties you are looking for. Now, as I stated, a lot of people are interested in biochar applications. It's one of the applications is soil, as I stated, but there are a lot of other applications which you will find is as a very good adsorbent. So biochar is known to be very good adsorbent because it is having wonderful physical properties and chemical properties. Physical properties in the sense it is highly porous, high surface area. When we talk about chemical properties, it has a lot of functional groups on it because these are biomass, cellulose, lignin, hemicellulose. So there will be a lot of functional groups there, carboxyl groups, OH groups will be there. So that is one reason why you will see that there is a lot of application in environmental application for removal of different types of pollutants, you will see. Now, in the soil part, as I stated, we'll talk about we'll define what particular role biochar has in soil. So generally, biochar improves the soil aggregation in various ways, increasing the organic matter. Now, as I stated, carbon is one of the major element in biochar. Biochar is made of 70% of carbon. And this carbon basically helps in it acts as a source for the microbial community inside the soil. That means the microorganisms which are there, and it acts as a food for them. So this helps in the growth of these microorganisms, which further basically help in their activity. So they basically can help in the role of microbial comes into picture because they help in mineralizing different types of nutrients. For example, there is organic phosphorus, which is not soluble, which is not in a soluble form. It basically converts into a form which can be taken by the plant. So it helps in the plant growth in that way. And again, these are through enzymes which it produces. It improves the water holding capacity. Biochar increases the amount of water the soil can hold because again it is highly porous, and neutralizing the soil pH. Biochar can neutralize the pH because again they have different functional groups. So sometimes you will see that biochar, if added to an acidic soil, it will basically neutralize it. Now this is again very important because this again affects the microbial community, because bacteria or whatever fungi which are in the soil, they don't survive at high pH. There is a neutral pH at which they survive. Then comes biochar. I'll go back. Biochar increases the cation exchange capacity, water content of the soil, which improves aggregate stability. Now, when we say aggregate, what happens is basically the biochar, when it goes into the soil, it actually has the soil particles over it, and they basically form as aggregates. So when these form as aggregates, what happens is they form a very porous-like structure so the soil structure becomes much more porous overall. So this helps in better air movement, better water movement, and that is basically where this soil porosity comes into picture. So you will see that everything is related. Every point is related. So if soil aggregation is there, that means the soil also becomes porous, and the water holding capacity also increases because again pores are generated. This is an example where you will see that farmers already have been doing this. So this is one trial, basically where you will see that so this is basically, if I remember, the IBBN is basically it's an Indian biochar it's an organization where basically they do field trial studies where basically what they have done is they basically use biochar with organic fertilizer. Now, I'll again clear this organic fertilizer area because normally organic fertilizer are basically most common type is your compost or the manure, what we talk about. Animal manure can be converted into compost, or food waste can be converted into compost, and it is actually an organic fertilizer. And so basically you'll see that they have used a mixture of biochar, organic fertilizer on field crops, and they specifically use for ragi because Karnataka is very famous for ragi cultivation, and there are different varieties. So this is one variety which is finger millet, and you'll see that you can see in his hand the one which is basically on his right hand is the one where the soil is with the biochar. There was biochar with the organic fertilizer being put, and the one where the biochar was not put. You can see the soil is very loose, or it is not bonded in the one where it is not used, and whereas on the one where biochar is present, the soil is much more thick, it is much more aggregated together. And this is one thing which you can visually see. Others also, you can see the plant also. What they were seeing is the stem was much more thicker, more roots were there, deeper root zone were there, broader greener leaves, darker soil, and then 30% more panicles. Panicles actually means on a branch how many the fruits are basically present. So there the number of fruits bearing on each branch was higher. That is what it states. And higher concentration of earthworm. So this is again, you can say that indirectly it is enhancing it's somewhat like a vermicomposting. Also, it's not vermicomposted indirectly, but you can see the role of earthworms coming here. Okay. And yeah, coming to the next slide. Now, this is so one important thing to look here, take away from here is that, see, farmers already are doing it, but the problem is this is very localized. So the thing is, it is not being commercially used by all the farmers. There are regions in the same place itself where people don't use it. So there is a lot of, some farmers do agree, some farmers do not agree, because again, the cost and the amount of work involved would be also one factor deciding the utilization. Now, another key thing recently people are doing is biochar, they are modifying with the chemical fertilizers. Now, this is another way of basically, this is a very interesting approach, because this directly actually affects the usage of chemical fertilizer or synthetic fertilizer. Now, nitrogen is one of, generally in India, you will see that nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium based fertilizers are most commonly used. Among that, the topmost is urea, which is used. Nitrogen, because nitrogen is one of the limiting nutrients for nutrient present in the Indian soil. And globally also, you will see that a lot of production is taking place on nitrogen-based soil. Nitrogen-based fertilizers. But now the problem with nitrogen-based fertilizer is that most of these fertilizers don't actually do their job. They basically, during the process, during their time in the soil itself, they basically leach out in the sense with the water they mix. So there is a stage of reactions taking place. So basically there is this free nitrogen gets converted to ammonia, then it is fixed by the nitrobacter bacteria, okay, the rhizobium bacteria, and basically that is how nitrogen is consumed. But basically what happens is the ammonia basically gets converted into nitrate, nitrous oxides, and it gets released in the sense it basically gets dissolved in the water field, or it basically just evaporates out. So this is one of the major issues when you use nitrogen-based fertilizer. So this indirectly what happens is you will see that the lifetime or the retention or the time the fertilizer stays in the soil is less. That means, let's say in 15 days, if I basically just see the amount of, so what you see below is a plot where the researchers, they have basically tried to compare the effect of urea fertilizer, and they have basically modified the biochar with urea, and they have also added certain other components, some minerals, but uh, this composite, the urea biochar composite, they basically found that if you see this, I've forgotten to put the, sorry, retention time. So the y-axis is basically the retention time. So it is around 15 weeks, if I remember so. So you will see that in the 15 weeks, the amount of, what is it, the ammonium ion lost, or which is lost in as leachant, is more in the case of basically the in the case of urea fertilizer. That is one of the things. Whereas it is much more retained. So what happens is nitrogen will be there available for a longer period of time in soil. Now, this is one of the advantages of using biochar, because biochar is currently being considered to be as a slow release fertilizer. So what happens is biochar can absorb nitrogen, phosphorus, not just nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium on its surface. And in the soil, with time, because in the soil, the conditions will change. So what happens is, as you'll see, nutrient exchange also takes place. So what happens is the nitrogen basically slowly gets dissolved, taken by the bacteria, and it is basically given to the plant. So you will see that there is a slow release. So such fertilizers are currently being researched. People are trying to see it as an alternative for chemical fertilizer. And as I stated, you will see that so in a way, this also economically helps. One is you will require less amount of urea, and the dosage usage in the soil, that will be reducing. And plus, if we really optimize, we can also see that price of urea, let's say for a soil, 1 kg of urea use, you can utilize 1 kg of biochar urea. Now, the advantage is, one more thing is, biochar, as I stated, it also has nutrients. So nitrogen is normally present in biochar. So that also acts as a source of, nitrogen. Now, this is, in general, I have talked about agricultural waste. Now, I'll talk in briefly about, animal manure in agriculture. So animal manure is basically nutrient-rich natural substance from cattle waste used primarily as an organic fertilizer to improve soil health and provide nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Now, generally, you can't directly use this into the soil because these are having certain properties like their property pH will be high. Certain compounds will be high, like some alcoholic, some acid group compounds will be there, which will basically affect the soil. So hence, this is where compositing comes. So generally, most of the compost, what you say, are actually, the other term is organic fertilizer. So this work, what I am showing you here, is where basically the researchers, they converted the cow dung, they dried the cow dung, they modified it, they added compositing. Actually, I've not included because it's a very well-known method already being utilized by now also. It's one of the methods now also farmers utilize. So it's basically you try keep it for some time under certain conditions, you in aerobic conditions in a pit, and you basically add certain organic compounds and certain nutrients so that you basically optimize the condition and make sure that you finally get a powdered dry material. So the same thing they did, and they basically analyzed. Now this is cow dung. So the cow dung already has some microorganisms in this. So it was observed that the cow dung has bacillus and this Aspergillus niger and other fungi. So the four names given below bacillus are fungi. So they all are basically helping present in that cow dung, and they are known to be phosphorus solubilizer. So basically they help in dissolving the phosphorus into a form which can be taken by the plants. And again, there are certain other properties which they help. For example, these fungi, they basically are filamentous fungi. So they basically help in the aggregation of the soil. So when they help in aggregation, as I stated, the porosity increases, so water retention increases. So that is, again, it enhances the soil structure. So you will see, and again, this as per some of these are basically also known to basically have a biodegradation property. That means they can generate certain enzymes which can break down complex pesticides and all those things. And so generally the main role comes is these bacteria, they'll produce enzymes. For example, bacillus will produce phosphatase. That is an enzyme which basically converts the insoluble phosphorus into the soluble form. Same way, these other compounds, they will produce other enzymes which help in enhancing the soil. Now coming to the sewage sludge application. Now here, whatever till now we have talked about is very much farmer related, and one of the challenges there is that, as I stated, the farmers are not really basic. I mean, it is the level of knowledge being given to them or the technology available to them is limited. But now what we are talking about is basically where we are talking about the urban areas where we see that most of the population is there. Okay, so one of the waste generated is the sewage sludge. Okay, sewage sludge is basically coming from sewage. So sewage is basically waste, and mostly it is water is the major component. So this sewage is treated in wastewater treatment plants, and they go through 3 different types of treatments: primary, secondary, tertiary. And generally the tertiary is where basically secondary is where you have the biological treatment, and then from there the solid is using a clarifier, the solid mass is separated out, and the liquid is further taken to a third tertiary treatment process, and it is reused. Okay, so again, we should also understand here is that when we talk about urban, people are already knowing that we have to reuse things. So normally the waste which they try to avoid will be the one which has been extensively, being recycled, reused, and whatever maximum can be extracted. After that, whatever is left is what is actually the waste coming. Okay, now coming here, this is a plant where this is a plant, Indian-based water treatment plant, where they basically are trying to develop a biosolid, which is basically based on the sludge, sewage sludge. And they have stated different methods of basically the steps involved in making this type of fertilizer. So first is basically you thicken to increase its solid content. It then goes through a digestion process. So thickening is basically adding more, making sure that the solid component is much more in the sludge. Okay, waste, different types of waste they will try to gather, and they will have a limit at which they will basically consider that to be a good amount of solid. And then it is taken to a digestion process. This digestion, again, depending on what type of sludge it is or what is the composition, it can be a biological digestion, it can be a chemical digestion. And generally this is done to reduce any pathogenic pathogens there, because again, this is organic. So there will be a lot of pathogens present there. And chemical methods to treat any other chemicals, for example, chlorine-based compounds. Because when we say sewage, this major source of sewage is household waste. Then the chemicals are there, and domestic chemicals are there. Then your pharmaceutical waste, meaning wherever medicines, all those things are there. These all come under sewage waste. So soaps, detergents, all this will come in sewage. Okay, so that is. So you have to make sure that all these pollutants are removed. So that is where this thing comes. That the third point comes. Conditioning step. That is, conditioning agents like lime, fertilizer, and polymers may be mixed into reduce odor, improve fertilizer properties, and reduce the potential for metals to leach into the soil. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. If you want to ask any question, it's please. You can stop me. Okay. So coming back to the fourth point, the dewatered sludge is then. So again, what they do is Once they do again the conditioning, they add lime so that the pH is increased. So if it is acidic, they will increase. They will add certain chemicals, because one of the major problems with these sludge is that odor is one thing, pathogens are one thing. So these are two main things to be noted down. So you have to reduce them, then reduce the potential of metals. So because these chemicals will have, whatever chemicals you use, they will be having some metal proportion. And one of the most difficult pollutant to remove is metals, because it is already observed that metals can actually be present in the food, because in the soil the metals are taken in by the plant, and you will find that vegetables already are contaminated with metal ions. So that is one of the major reasons why the potential of metals in the soil should be reduced. Then you dewater it. Dewater means you are taking off the water so that you make sure only 10% of the moisture is present, and then you basically dry it and make it into granules. And again, depending on the waste, as I stated, you have to make sure, you have to do a lot of continuous testing that the pollutants are not there, no metal ions are there. These are the major challenges actually. That is why you will see that these are not really getting that much commercialized, because it's a free material, because your waste is directly utilized for as a fertilizer. It is a recycling of waste. So it is it is basically contributing to some important points of waste management, but waste management even and your agriculture. But the problem is here also there is this perception. People are reluctant to use this as a fertilizer because this is a human waste based product. So these all things have to be changed if this has to be used in large scale. I think, let me just, yeah. Now, when we talk about industrial effluent also, we have to only talk about organic effluent, because again, organic effluent is the only one which can come into agricultural, this picture, agricultural application. But again, you will see that industrial people, they basically want to reuse whatever they generate. So most of the organic waste, what they will do is they will basically try to utilize it for biomethanation or methane production. That is one thing where the residue what is formed will be basically utilized as a biofertilizer. Now the amount how much it generates would not be great enough to basically make it into a product. So that is one of the major limitations. Then coming to your municipal solid waste. Now this is again very similar to the previous slide. As I stated, here also wet waste is what we are talking about, because dry waste, majority of them are recycled. So there again, you cannot try to basically focus on an industry or utilization of dry waste. But wet waste is somewhere where again, the government is, so this data what I've taken is basically from the circular economy document, which is published by the Ministry of Urban Affairs. So it's there, it talks about the Swachh Bharat and how the waste is being segregated, what all steps are there. So in that they have classified well how the wet waste is going to be processed. So basically compositing and biomethanation is there. And again, you can see that mainly it is focused towards getting biogas, and whatever is left behind is basically going as biomanure. So so you will see that basically industries, what they do is sugar industry, as I showed before, that is one where organic waste is there. What they try to do is now most of the it is being stated that all the sugar industries now have a ethanol plant, so that they basically try to utilize the sugarcane molasses and try to make ethanol. And this is again from the industry person's point of view, it's an advantage because he gets subsidies, because he's generating bioethanol fuel and he can sell. So government will provide him some subsidy. So that's why you'll see that mainly nothing has been focused towards agricultural as such when it comes to industries and basically municipal solid waste. I think with this, I basically try to have covered the main, point of the topic, which is basically utilizing biomass waste in agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and which we should be focusing, which one really has a long-term impact on sustainable agriculture. So mostly it is agricultural waste because the waste is with the farmer. So for the farmer, the waste becomes more of a, again a value added raw material for earning more money. So hence more focus, because agriculture is a farmer dominated field. So whatever basically is going to benefit him is what is basically going to directly being which can be applied in real sense for sustainable agriculture. So this is just a short. I'll just go within 10 minutes. I'll try to wrap up. This is about my work, what I've been doing here, and how it is related to the work. What related to the sustainable agriculture. So we basically work on biomass. We work on different biomass. So we work on biomass waste. So we work on different types of biomass waste. We work on coconut shell, peanut shell, all of these waste we work on. And we try to utilize them for soil enhancement studies. We also have been looking into some newer technology or technique, whatever, it fits it. We are basically trying to immobilize microorganisms on biochar. So this actually came into picture because my PhD student, she was from microbiology and I was from chemical engineering. So I did not know anything about bacteria and this. So she did not know about biochar. So that is the where we basically decided, let's try to think about something. Can we basically use biochar? Because already biochar is known to be a well-known catalyst support. And can we immobilize bacteria on it? And let's start environmental remediation studies, because that is, as I stated, one of our key things. So we did a lot of immobilization of microorganisms. We tested a lot of microorganisms. We normally test the commercial ones, because commercial ones, the ones which are non-pathogenic. So that actually becomes very easy for establishing also that this microorganism won't have an ill effect if the technology basically works out. But whereas that is another problem when you go with indigenous or isolating a bacteria. Bacteria strains are different. Let's say if I say Pseudomonas species, there is Pseudomonas switzeri, there is Pseudomonas putida. So these are all different types of bacteria coming from the same species but different strains. Okay, so that is one. So their properties, their efficiency will be different. Then we study, and we have studied, environmental remediation on pesticide, metal ions, hydrocarbons, polyethylene, dye. And this is the different topics related to the microbial cell immobilized biochar. And as I stated, one of the key important, why we did basically immobilization of bacteria is basically to do remediation studies, that is removal of pollutants. So the bacteria also has certain properties of removing pollutants, and the bacteria can remove the pollutants by different mechanisms. So there is bioaccumulation, there is biosorption. Some reactions takes place inside the microbial cell, some takes place outside. It generates some enzymes or some other fluids which basically can get involved in the remediation process. So this is different for different types of pollutants also. Now the only problem is when we use a free cell, that is when you only use bacteria, the survivability is very limited. You have to the problem is the commercialization is not easy because they require a nutrient medium also. So some of these reactions are not the major reactions, these are side reactions. But for their metabolic activity, you have to provide nutrients. That is one thing. And second thing is when free cells, you can't reuse it. So that is where the biochar came into. So it's more of a heterogeneous system where we can actually reuse it. And these are different techniques, which I'm not going to talk. These are very standard techniques. So we basically try to understand how the immobilization got. We tried different, this is basically one of the bacteria we basically choose, Pseudomonas switzeri. So MTCC, that is basically the agency which basically has this, this is the name given to this bacteria from that agency. Now we basically synthesize, initially you do lab studies. So we did basically in muffle furnace, we made different biochar at different time and different time interval. We basically then did the immobilization part. So this is basically your typical lab experiment, wet lab experiments. And then we basically optimize which biochar bacteria system should we choose based on the number of bacteria which is immobilized. So we were able to see that the biochar which had high surface area, which had high carbon content, was very good for bacteria to immobilize, because more space and carbon was good for its own growth also. These are some of the characterization techniques we have used. This is one, so as I stated, we initially started using cadmium and nickel for removal, metal ion removal from water. So water in the sense aqueous medium. And we were able to see that, we can really remove cadmium and nickel very well using the, the immobilized system. That is PRHP is the microbial immobilized biochar. And when you compare with the free cell, you can basically see that it can be very effective for high concentrations. This is again talking about cadmium removal when we are talking about with terms of number of utilization. So this is where I started the heterogeneous application. Then you can also see that cadmium nickel removal is very much better when compared to the biochar itself and the free cell bacteria itself. So it is observed that biochar has a very important role because it absorbs the pollutant. Plus, we were also able to see that the bacteria also has its own role in the remediation. So it's basically a synergistic, mechanism which involves both bacteria and biochar. Now that is when we later on we did on soil. And soil, again, you have certain procedures. You have to basically add the cadmium into the soil. You have to incubate it, and you have to basically check the cadmium fractions, because again, cadmium is different. There are different types of cadmium, concentration present soil. It will be cadmium available, cadmium which is fixed. So you have different extraction techniques to basically define all these types of cadmium fractions. So that is basically your DTPA method. So it's a standard method. We have used all standard methods, and we were able to see that if a soil which is basically having the cadmium, basically it initially if it was having, let's say, somewhere around 6.8 milligrams per kg of soil cadmium, after 80 days, you can basically see that the initial was around 10 milligrams per kg. And it is seen after 7 days, it reduces to 4.25. Whereas in the control, that is without, the microorganisms are present in the soil. So they can actually also do some remediation. So it did not reduce much. But you can see after 80 days, there was a drastic reduction. So more than, let's say, 3 times it reduced, more than 3 times. So around 68.58% reduction was compared to the control soil. This is again, as I stated, the soil was, so this is again, the reason why I'm going like a story is because we never really, this is how I got into this agricultural part, because I was trying to basically look into soil removal, pollutant removal. But then we were able to see that, some of the enzyme activities were very high. So soil phosphatase, beta glucosidase, soil organic matter, they were increasing. So soil phosphatase, as I stated, that means organic phosphorus mineralization was much more higher because of the enzyme, that soil phosphatase. Beta glucosidase helps in breaking down hydrocarbons, making into simple carbon molecules, which can be taken by the microorganisms. So you can see that indirectly, that also, because carbon is broken down into simple chain, microorganism growth is also taking place. So the organic soil matter was also increasing. So this was very interesting thing. So this led to, why don't we study some plant growth studies? Because normally you'll see that for the paper point of view, we study the removal, but this is an agricultural soil. Can it be reused again? Can it be again reused for plantation? Let's say, because now cadmium, cadmium, nickel, lead, chromium, these are one of the major metal ions which are already known to be polluting the soil, agricultural soil, coming from different industries. The thing is, they seep in through the groundwater and they can basically pollute the soil. So we can see that, figures from figure that E1. So this is basically A is the uncontaminated, like soil without any contamination. How a normal. So this was basically, if I remember, this is basically radish. Yes, no, sorry, spinach. This is spinach which was grown, and you will see that in the normal this thing it grows. B is basically the contaminated soil. So you can see the root and the leaf formations are not started all, and the length is also not. It's shorter. And if you look into the E1, that is where you have the soil which is treated with the PRHB, which was already contaminated, and the contamination was removed. And this is again one important thing you should know is that the use of biochar is is become interesting is because once you put in soil, it is very difficult to take it. So that's why biochar becomes a very good material to basically be used for carrying out such remediation studies also. And biochar already was known to be is known to be a soil enhancer. So you can see that this this material which had the bacteria as well as the biochar not only just removed the metal ion, but it also actually enhanced the soil. And we further did some studies. So we actually, the plant was further grown in pot. And if you see, we basically checked the cadmium accumulation inside the plant. So we took the plant, we basically dissolved it, some different parts of the plant, and then we did the ICP-OS. So basically that gives you an idea about the metal ion fraction. And it was clearly visible that, the cadmium accumulation was very low. It was very low when compared to the control or the, when compared to the individual biochar or Schizeri bacteria. So that was one key important thing which we observed. This was further, we studied the mechanism. We also studied how the pH was changing. So all these experiments were carried out for 84 days. Now that is again one more thing is that you require a lot of patience. You require really good students who basically are interested in these topics. This is another study which we did with coconut shell. And this was, so the soil previously, the soil what you are seeing is all soil taken from Palakkad region, which is known to be an agricultural region. So there, that soil was used. And here, basically, again, you can see the coconut shell. Here, what I want to show you is the water holding capacity. So biochar actually increased the water holding capacity. Again, you can see cadmium studies were done. And this was a tomato plant study. So this was done in point. So it was observed that the 5% coconut shell biochar was basically useful in removal of, again, cadmium from the plant, as well as it was helping the plant growth. Again, if you, so how to, again, you further define the role of the biochar is basically studying the soil properties. So initial soil properties and after soil also, if you see, there's a slight increase in the pH. The soil organic also increases. Some of the nutrients also will increase. So these are some of the things which we were able to see. And you will see some compounds also reducing. So some of them were getting immobilized, were basically immobilized onto the material itself. That is the biochar. This is a recent work which we did where we took corn stover waste. And corn stover waste is from the corn field. It's the waste which is generated after the corn harvesting is done. And this is, again, normally they give it to animals as a feed. And whatever was the leftover was basically utilized. So it will have different, corn stover is like a mixture of stem, leaves, and all those things. So we basically made a biochar out of it, and we basically used black soil, which is one of the major soil in this region. And we did the same trace studies to basically see the plant growth. And here's, I want to talk about the two properties. What we studied was the antioxidant and the chlorophyll content of the plant. So what we found is the first figure, what you see is basically enhancement in the properties. That is the enzymatic activity. But the second figure, what I want to show you is basically the chlorophyll also increases. Chlorophyll means more sunlight is taken, the photosynthesis is good, the plant is healthy. And when we say antioxidant activity means when plants are in stress, they generate antioxidants. So which basically helps in, again, fighting out with the whatever the external stress is there. So the plant which was basically so here what you see CSB 500, CSB 600, these are different biochar at different temperatures prepared. And control is without the biochar. So you can see the biochar which was synthesized by 600 showed a better performance in which showed a better performance in terms of chlorophyll content or in terms of antioxidant activity. Now, as I stated previously, this is one thing again you have to do is optimization, because when you do some studies under 500, 600, 700, things won't be correct. So meaning because at 700 we find that the carbon content is less, the nutrient content is good, whereas in 500 the burning has not taken place, or the surface porous structure has not formed, and we were able to see that the high surface area was much higher, was obtained at the corn stover biochar synthesized at 600. So this is again all these things. UV characterization of material is very important here. These are some of the works which we have been doing. As I stated, we have been working. These are all of them are published. So these are basically where we have used rice husk, biochar, coconut shell, and you can see we have worked on a number of different types of microorganisms. So bacillus is again which was obtained commercially, Pseudomonas. So these are actually known to be also well known to enhance the soil. They generate good enzymes. There was also one work where we basically try to isolate the bacteria from the soil. So that is what is basically what you see at the end. That is the Aeronomus veroni. That is basically a bacteria which was isolated from the pesticide contaminated soil. And the pesticide was basically chlorophyrosis. This is a well-known pesticide used, organophosphate pesticide. And we tested this for plant growth studies also. Yeah, this is my group, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah, I'll keep the slides on. Yeah. If you have any questions or any suggestions, that would be really great to improve.
You can also type the questions in the chat window.
Am I too early, or I thought
No,
15
no,
minutes is
it's
good
like
enough?
10 minutes is a Q&A session normally will keep.
Yeah, this time I think it is a time everyone is hungry also.
Yes.
Don't waste food. That is the only thing I can say.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are
I
audible.
think
Please, sir.
Okay.
someone speaking.
Okay. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. For a curiosity, sir. So near my house, there are a lot of plywood
Mr.
companies are there.
Madhu, sorry.
Can you?
Madhu wants to.
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir? Hello. Hello.
I'm really grateful to all that,
Yeah,
112
Madhu,
people are
yeah.
present.
The question?
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, it's audible, sir.
Yes, you can. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. My question
Am I
is.
audible actually?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, my question is, there are a lot of plywood companies are very near to my home. They are produce many burning ashes while they are burning the plywood and other residual matters, and they are generating a lot of ashes. Can we convert these ashes to biochar?
Okay, biomass can be. I assume I'm audible. Okay.
Okay.
So biomass may be used to treat water purification. Now, the thing is, can we treat industrial sludge with the biomass?
Mm-hmm.
We can do anything, to be frank, because anything, the final thing is we should be knowing what reason we are utilizing it for. For example, meaning I'll answer in a very scientific way. See, industrial
Okay, sir.
sludge basically, as I stated, it is containing a lot of it contains a lot of impurities or some toxic. As I stated, metal ions, some chemicals are there. If you are able to, can we treat? Okay, treat industrial sludge with biomass. Treats industrial sludge with biomass. See, again, we have to talk from the value of the whole thing. If biomass is a valuable thing here, and you have to basically avoid using using it as a material for treatment, because again, biomass in general, if let's say that this biomass is having a good characterization, like properties like high surface area, some functional groups, you can test and see it. But again, whether it is how much is the efficiency is what is more important, and what pollutant you want to remove, that is again important. So in this, so initially, let's say if you want to remove, let's say a phenolic compound or something, you will require some functional groups present on the biomass. So that is one thing which will decide whether you want to basically go for textile sludge. Okay, textile sludge. Okay, okay. This is a very interesting thing. Now the textile sludge. Okay. Let me tell you in this way that already there are a lot of technique. When we say textile sludge, that means they have treated it using primary, secondary treatment. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
And then
This is
finally
not,
what comes out is basically this sludge, which is much more less polluting when compared to the initial whatever the solid or the semi-solid thing was present in the waste. Now, I will answer this to a recent, there was a recent proposal given by the DST where they are basically trying to see whether the textile sludge can be converted into biochar. They want to convert the sludge into biochar. So there's, yes. So you might have seen that. So if you're talking as a sludge as a material, then I would say that definitely we can do that. But if you're talking, let's say, and if you want to modify, let's say that sludge with a biomass and try to enhance certain properties, provide some properties, again, it can be done. See, as I stated, we can try. There is nothing which will stop us not doing that. See, chemical dye, again, as I stated, what they will do is they will neutralize it. And if you look into some of these chemical dyes, they are also having some aromatic compounds in this. Okay, so what type of dyes they are using, that all, heavy metals, those things are important. How do you basically remove these heavy metals? Now, let's say these, that's why I was telling you that the testing part is very important. Whatever textile sludge we get, see, because again, there are different types of pollutants which will come from this textile waste, because there is a fabric unit will be there, there will be a dyeing unit will be there, there will be other units where they will be using certain other organic chemicals, they will be using lime, they will be using acids, all these things will be there. So if let's say you're talking about chemical dye, if I am talking about chemical dye, first what I will try to see is whether I'll check the neutral this thing of the solution. Whatever waste is coming, I'll neutralize it first. Then second is what I will do is basically I will definitely try to dry it. I'll do some characterization of that material to basically do the FTI studies, some FTI studies to see what are the functional groups on its surface. Okay, then I can do that is one thing. You have to do a thorough characterization. Once that is done, have you any idea of using sludge for the jute industry and jute producer farmer? I'm actually reading it because I was looking into this waste management proposal thing, but that required an industry to do it. So that's why I did not really go into that part. But it can be done because again, jute, there are already papers where people have used jute sludge to make biochar, and they have been utilizing it. But jute industry and jute producer farmer. Now that jute producer farmer, no, I have not. But I have definitely seen papers on jute sludge being utilized.
Any other participants has any questions can ask now.
Hello, good evening, Vaishak sir.
I will mail.
Hello. Dr. Saibi, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Can
Okay.
ask.
Vaishak sir, there was actually one more faculty member who was asking a doubt, Dr. Madhu PC. Had you heard about his doubt? Like, did you hear about this doubt?
What was it?
I think
Uh,
regarding plywood industry, so the burning happens and the ashes are coming, and can that be used as a biochar? That was a question.
Okay, even I also missed that. Dr. Vaishya, can you hear us?
I think there is some issue with the audio, maybe.
Okay. I asked it in chat box.
I really don't know whether someone is speaking to me because I can see the changes happening, but I cannot hear.
Yes, we are asking questions. One question. Are you able to hear now?
Hello, Madhu sir, can you just type the question? Is it possible?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
No, I can't hear. I don't know why I can't hear.
You can stop the presentation actually. Yeah, Madhu sir, can you type the question in the chat box?
1 minute, 1 minute. Let me just. Yeah. Sorry, sir. Now I can hear you. Please.
Madhu sir, please ask the question.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please tell me.
Sir, what I'm asking is that, so in my house, there are a lot of plywood companies. They are generating a lot of ashes after burning the residual matters of the wood and other materials. Can we convert these ashes to biochar?
See, and when you say ashes, already see biochar, one of the components of biochar is ash also. So when you say define biochar, it is basically the carbon content is there, the organic carbon is there, then the fixed carbon is there. So you cannot say that the ash is biochar. Ash is ash and biochar is different. That is that is not same. I hope I have answered.
No, sir. What I'm asking is, can we convert these ashes to biochar? When we are, burn it at high temperature up to 300 to 500 degrees Celsius, these ashes, can we convert these ashes to biochar?
No. Let me ask you one question. Ash meaning, what are you meaning by ash? The gray color.
After the residual matter is after burning.
So that means it is like it's like combustion. You have just burned it, and finally, what is ash? Okay. What you can do is you can directly convert it into biomass, biochar.
Oh,
What you can do
okay.
is you can mix it with a biomass, you can modify it with a biomass, and then you basically do a heat treatment and
Okay.
try to convert it. So it would be a modified. So it would be like your ash is modifying the biomass, and that is basically a biochar, you can say.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
Vaishya sir, one more doubt to be cleared. The soil, as you told, it is very complex system, right? So when we do the experiments using the soils, like what kind of preparations we need to do in the case of soil studies?
First thing is, if you have taken some soil samples, try to do the experiments within 2 months. That is one thing, because the soil matter, a lot of things will change within. If you're going to do an analysis, see, when I say we were doing for 84 days, we are also making sure we are keeping some conditions, water and all those things, because you're growing a plant. So there, what happens is, it is like so the first step is, if you have a soil sample and you are not using it, make sure that it doesn't stay beyond 1 or 2 months. 2 months, I would say, because after 2 months, what happens is itself, because it will be in a closed, bag or this thing, it will be secluded. So moisture will go, the microorganisms will finish up with the, nutrients and everything. So that is one thing. That is one thing is the usage of the soil. Second is one thing is, see, the numbers do have a very important thing. That is the numbers in the sense, how much amount you put, how much, because we use around 30, in a tray study, we use around 30 gram of soil. And you should be knowing how much ratio, because again, when we go to papers and all those things, they will give a different ratios and all those things. Second is, majority of the methods, what do you use? Because this is second thing. So second thing is, make sure your method is a standard method. What I would say, from that I mean is that you really know that these values, whatever you're taking, are somewhere well published. For example, for soil studies, right now also, when people do soil studies for, let's say, industry, there's an industry, and and people try to do, yearly evaluation of its effect. So the soil, whatever they take, they will always use the whatever the methods are stated in the Indian agricultural Indian Council for Agricultural Research, ICAR. So their documents, that is what is followed. There are other techniques also which can be used as a supporting. For example, this carbon and phosphorus. There are some paper like color changing steps, titration methods are also there. But it would be always good when you want to really talk, because when you want to basically use this data to take it for a larger scale, you should basically go for methodologies which actually are implemented. Okay, because papers will, for the paper, again, as I stated, for publishing a paper, there will be a different methodologies, that is fine. But therefore, if you want to do a real time, let's say I want to make this material into real application point of view, I should definitely go with some standards. That is one thing. And every time monitoring the samples, that is the key important things. These are things. Again, the seed also, what you take. You should be knowing the seed from where you are basically getting collected, because some of the seeds might be having stored for a longer period of time. There will be already a fungus. And you will see that when you try to do the growth studies, the seed won't grow. So that is again an important thing. You should basically know that whatever your materials are, basically they are ready to be utilized. Soil, others are all not very much an issue. Soil sample, because you're doing initially when you do lab scale, the sample, the area is very less. But let's say when we go to let's say a land piece, and when we do, there the things might change. And there you will see again, the soil which you are taking, what you say that taking the samples of soil is one important thing. Now, again, I'll just add one more thing is biochar here. Now, we did all in muffled furnace, but if I want to do for real application, I have to make biochar in a big capacity pyrolyzer. So recently we have basically made a pyrolyzer which basically gives us, we can basically burn, it's a 5-liter volume. So we are based on the type of biomass, you will see that 1 kg might be less. And for some biomass, it will be more. So we were able to basically try out different this thing, and we were able to see very good biochar being formed. So that is one more thing which you have to study. One is you have to compare, make sure that when you do the soil studies, and again, when you want to talk about it for application in real time, you have to do a pilot scale production of the biochar and study it. That's it.
Yeah, got it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vaishak. Thank you
Yeah.
for the whole session. I think we'll wind it up.
Yeah. Thank you so much.